All right, Photo One, we are going to talk about motion. I know that right now you're using your cell phones to take pictures, most of you, but your cell phone, you can still control the shutter in it for different results. So a lot of this will still apply. Okay, so your shutter controls the appearance of a moving subject. Faster speeds will stop or freeze movement because it's fast. Slower speeds will blur movement because they're slow. Okay. Why? Remember that your shutter is open for longer, capturing all of the subject that is moving. Okay. That's what happens when you use your slow shutter speed. Remember that subjects that are fast need a faster speed. So, like cheetahs and cars and somebody running. All right. Subjects moving slow or not at all, they need slower speeds. So, mountains, houses, me, because I don't run, remember? Ha ha ha. Okay. So, remember that at slow speeds, you may also get camera shake for your phone or for the camera. All right. So remember that shutter speeds are fractions of a second from the slowest to the fastest. In this sequence, the 1/1000th would be the fastest because it's 1,000th of a second. A half of a second is slow in photography terms. But remember that they're usually written as whole numbers. We drop the fraction format and we compare this to the speedometer of the car. The bigger the number, the faster you're going. Okay? So, here we have a fourth of a second. You can see lots of blur. Then we go to a 30th of a second. We're starting to see less blur and more formation. Finally, at 250th of a second, the shutter speed is faster than the object moving, so we are able to capture it in time. But don't forget that it's not just your shutter speed, but where you stand in relation to your subject that matters as well. If you notice here, the runner, this is a 60th of a second, and over here is a 60th of a second. But you'll notice that the figure on the right, he is in focus, versus the figure on the left, he has blur going on. Okay? That's because remember that things that come towards us or away from us change gradually. Things that move across our vision change dramatically faster. So where you stand also matters for this project, Photo One. Okay, so landscape needs what? Fast or slow? Slow, right? Okay, what about windy days with grass? Fast or slow speed? Well, if you want to freeze the grass, then you use a fast shutter speed. But if you want to show that it's a windy day, then you would use a slow shutter speed. That way the grass would be moving in the picture. Okay, waterfall. Remember, this comes back to when we were doing your Photo 1 test. What would you use and why? There's no right or wrong answer here. A fast shutter speed will freeze the water as it moves. A slow shutter speed will blur the water as it moves for that majestic look. Your new technique is panning. This is moving your camera during exposure in the same direction as your subject's motion. Okay, here is a picture of that. The whole point of panning is for it to look like your subjects are in motion. You want your subject to be mostly focused. You can see right here at her leg and the wheels, there's some blur. And this guy back here has some blur. But see, this whole background, lots and lots and lots of blur. All right? So as they were driving by or riding by on their bicycles, the photographer was following them, took the picture, and kept moving with them. If he would have stopped, the people would end up blurry and the background would end up focused. Okay? And when you're working on panning, make sure that you don't use a fast shutter speed because then you'll freeze everything, the people and the background. You want to use a slower shutter speed, but not the slowest shutter speed. Okay? So a little bit faster. Okay, so here, This is a medium shutter speed. You can see where the waterfall has a little bit of blur and it has a little bit of frozen. This is a fast shutter speed. Water is frozen. Slow shutter speed. Camera was put on a tripod, or the person was standing there holding the cell phone as the trains were going by. This is panning. So using a slower shutter speed, but see the people are in focus and the background is blurred. This is a mosh pit at a rock concert. This would be using a slowest shutter speed as the people were moving and also incorporating bird's eye view. This would be a slow shutter speed incorporating your worm's eye view, that low angle. Lots of shots have been done like this using your bird's eye view. Remember, it's not just the object, but how it relates to the background as well. Would this top be as successful if the color, if the background color was different than black? No, because all this black is what's helping all these colors pop out. Okay? You can do stuff like this, pouring sugar on top of fruit in your house. Just make sure you have a good background to make the colors pop. All right, when I'm talking about blurred people or when I'm talking about blurred objects, the Flash comes to mind. I know, but it's me. So notice how in each one of these images, the Flash is a blurred object, but everything behind him is motion focus, okay? I'm not worried about your background being super focused. Just make sure that there's no crazy blur going on in the background. Make sure your subject is what's blurred. Here you can have somebody standing in the middle of other people. Well, not during this point in time, but having somebody stand in the middle of something moving captures blur. This is long exposure. I don't think you guys can do this, but it's still a concept that you could look up. Just slow motion. And then somebody moving around. These blur pictures happen better in darker environments. That'll be helpful for you guys for this project. Frozen motion again. This is milk, not water, because of the viscosity. It's got a big drop here and it's white. So if you want to do some milk drops, you can do that. You can pour paint on objects and take pictures of them as they drip. This picture of the skull was actually taken the opposite direction by one of my friends. So he took it as the paint dripped and then decided to rotate it to exhibit it. So that's something else that you can think about doing. Just because you take it one direction doesn't mean it needs to be shown that same direction. All right, notice water versus the milk. See how much more water drops it has, how much more viscous it is, how much thinner it is. I guess not viscous. More viscous is thicker. All right, water here. Somebody jumping, flipping. Breaking things. If you're going to do something like this, make sure you pick up after yourself. Do not leave a mess. Anthony Escalante years ago did photos like this. He got a fine for it, but now he travels around the world taking photos for Sony. So there you go. All right, here's panning. Again, notice that her feet are blurred and the background is blurred. A car is driving by, right? So this is cool because the car is in focus, but then the rest of the background is blurred. The Flash, once again, notice his feet and his hands are blurred, but his core is mostly focused. Okay, here's some hints for you guys. Frozen. Everything's in focus. Fast shutter speed. All right, blur. Subject is blurred, background is focused. Better shot inside. Frozen is better shot outside because of light. All right, panned, your subject is in focus mostly and your background is blurred. Okay, follow your subject, move with them as you take the photos. Here's some examples. This is some blur motion sitting on a merry-go-round. We have a panned picture of a dog as it's running by. Blur motion, capturing the color. This is long exposure. They moved around while the camera was taking the photo and used a flashlight to draw around their sister. This is one of those photos where the before was okay, but the after edit was much, much better. You can see that moving the hand, they captured the blur. Here's a frozen of water. More frozen of a water fountain. Carlos Escobar did this one. More water and more pouring liquid. Nice thing about the quarantine is no water fountain pictures for this project. Okay. This photo here I took on my cell phone, just moving my hand really fast so you can see the blur motion. Took this on my cell phone, just the dogs wrestling around. This is Glitch capturing the wind, and then Merlin moving. So you can do blur and frozen and pan motion all on your cell phone. All right. So work on doing these motion photos and turn in one of each, one blur, one frozen, and one panned. All right.